Hey everybody, Z Garcia here. Today we're going to be traveling to the year 2755 to mine resources and sell them on the stock market in Living Planet. In this game, every player is on an alien planet, a living planet as it says here, and they are going to be taking actions around the table, building different buildings, hiring new scientists, gathering resources, mining them out, and then using those things to manipulate the stock market, right? They're going to be dropping the price of things and buying them up, then kicking up the prices and selling them at a profit, ultimately trying to get the most victory points. And you do that by controlling those buildings on the planet and by having a bunch of money. The living planet part of this comes from the fact that the planet has a bunch of cataclysms going off, and they are going to wreck your buildings, kill your scientists, take away control of the things you have on the board. So this is quite a mean game. I'll put that out there right up front. But let's go ahead and take a look at how this works. I'll show you, hopefully, a fairly quick overview. There's a lot going on. So I'll do my best here, and then I'll see you on the other side. In the game, each player is trying to explore the planet, trying to build buildings, control those buildings, avoid cataclysms as they come along, and ultimately have the most victory points, which are going to come in the form of controlling buildings. They'll be worth 2 points or 1, depending on the type of building. You are going to be scoring 1 victory point if you have one of these mechanized units on the board. You have possibly up to 2. So you'll be getting points for that. And you are also going to be getting points for every 5 mega credits. This is the currency in the game. So for every 5 of those, you're going to get 1 victory point. At the end of the game, whoever has the most victory points is the winner. Now, there are 2 sort of major areas in the game here. You have the stock market, which plays a big part in the game, and then you have the planet itself over here, which begins with a starting tile based on the number of players, and will grow as the planet is explored with these tiles. So here we're taking a look at the game setup for 4 players. I'm going to be taking you through what a turn looks like so that you have an idea of how everything works, but I'll try not to go into too much of the minutia. There's a decent amount of it. There's quite a bit going on here. So we each begin with 1 spaceport that has a scientist in it and also one of our automation chips so that the building is self-running, basically. Everybody is going to get 20 mega credits. You begin with one of these little mushroom-looking guys, which are one of the resources the planet makes. And then everybody has a deck of cards that they begin with. So I'm just going to grab the yellow one here. I'm going to put the other ones just aside for a moment. Normally, you would also have a player screen, but I'm going to leave these off the screen for now because they'll just get in the way. And they give you a little bit of a breakdown of what the factories make, possible actions in the middle, some scoring here at the end. So we'll set these aside for now. We'll come back to them if we need to. All right, so let me take you through what a turn looks like. Every round, someone is going to be the leader, and they're going to have this board here as well as these 4 dice. So that'll be me for right now. I'm going to put this in front of myself with the dice next to it. Everybody is going to select one of their cards here, whichever one they want to. So I'll go ahead and select that one, and everybody else has selected one as well. Once everyone has one, we will reveal them all simultaneously. And we will assign, I will select the dice to match the colors that everyone provided. So I put in a 4, green did the same thing, and then red 2 and blue 5. There we go. And now I get to select in the order that these players and these dice will be activated. So I can do that however I want to, all right? So we're going to just do that for now. There we go. It's possible also that now there would be a special ability that is triggered on the card, but this only matters for the player who is the leader. So all of these other players, whatever their cards say on the bottom, don't matter whatsoever. Only I, in this case, would apply this. And next turn, once this rotates, then the next player will apply whatever is on their new card. We'll all each play a new card. So there we go. These can go away now. And I'm not going to worry about the special effect here for this moment too much. So we're going to go ahead and go through these. Starting from the first column, I'll run everyone through the steps. So this goes down, and every building that has a 4 will produce. You will notice that the buildings have die faces in the corners. This is a 4 here, for example. On the other side, there is a 3, and you'll find different numbers for all of these production buildings, as well as the spaceports, which produce on a 6. So all the 4s would make whatever they make. Then we go down here, whichever player's die this is will take 2 actions. And then after that, we will deal with any cataclysms that are triggered on a yellow 4. That'll be done. Then we go over here, production, 2 actions for blue, cataclysms, and so on down the line. So, we're going to skip production now because there isn't anything, obviously, and I'll talk about the different actions you can take. So here are the actions. You can explore, you can move, you can construct, you can trade, you can take a grant, or you can take a fate control token. So let's go back over those. The really easy ones are grant and fate control token. A fate control token is this. You take it, later on you may use it before your die moves from one step to the next one to change the value right before it hits. So you want to take your actions, but then you don't want the fate die to show 5 before the cataclysms. Great, use this, change it. So you can only have one of those at a time. So there is that one. And then taking a grant simply gives you as many mega credits as the value on your die. You take those, put them behind your screen, that's it. The other ones, exploring. So I'll go ahead and do these actions. I'm going to draw as many tiles as my number. I'm going to look at these. I'm going to select one. I'm going to add it to the board somewhere that makes sense. The other ones will go on the bottom. And by make sense, I mean the sides must match. Like that. You will have the mountainous area and sort of the desert area. Once I've done this, I must move a scientist to it to explore. The scientists can go one step. The mechanized ones, these motorized ones, can move as many steps as the die. So they're a little more mobile. They also die a little faster, as you'll see. So there we go. That is explore, new locations on which to build. Let's take a look at this a little more closely here. You will see a spot for a building there. If it's a production building, it will make oil. Over here, a spot which makes that electricity. Over here, a spot that makes one of 2 things. And then also on this tile, you'll see that the cataclysm is a twister or tornado that triggers on a green 4 and a red 3. So that's what's in play now. So that happens. That comes into play. Our friend here goes over there to that tile. So that's exploring. Moving allows you to move the different people in order to retake buildings you've lost, in order to position yourself in places you want, all sorts of things. Construct lets you build a building. So my 2 actions could have very well been explore and then construct. To construct, I'm going to select a building. Let's say I'm going to go with this one of these oil production buildings. I see there is a 5 coming up, then a 2, and then a 4. Well, maybe I'll buy this 5. I'll put it right there. I'm going to pay the 5 mega credits that it costs me. I'm going to take this scientist. He's going to go in there. There has to be a scientist in the tile to build it. And then I'm going to automate that building with this token covering the 5, which I no longer need to look at. This building is worth 2 victory points to me, unless I've lost it to cataclysms along the way. All right? So there we go. That is construct, and that's how that works. And then we go to trade as the next possible action, which is dealt with over here. And that's the last one. So let's go ahead and talk about it. Let's say that as we've gone through this a few times now, that's produced for me. So, a couple of times. So I've made, it will momentarily, right? So the 4 yellow won't do anything. And then once we get here, indeed, it will make me 1 barrel of oil. But let's say I've made some other things. Let's say I've collected some goodies here behind my screen. If I take the trade action, let's say I'm taking it with the same die, everything is the same. First thing I do is I draw 4 of these cards because of the die. Then I'm going to select one which is going to affect the market, either positively or negatively. I'm going to go ahead and select that one. I will discard all these with just the one I want showing. And so this will go 1, 2, 3 up. And then I can sell as much as the die shows of one kind, or I can buy up to 2. As long as the die is at least 2, I can buy 2 things. I'm going to sell. I'm going to sell both of these. Each one is 8. So I'm going to get 16 mega credits. And then after you sell, no matter the amount of one thing, the value drops. After you buy, the value will increase. It is also possible to trigger a crash, and you're going to do that. Let's say this was already like this, or let's say, they look like that. If I played this card on top, it would go 1, 2, 3. And once it's done moving, if it crashed, meaning it went past the spot, everybody who has any of it has to sell it all off at the new value. And then I get my 1 transaction, okay? So there you go. Like I said, some of these special cards will mess with all these things I'm saying. So like this one, for example, before I trigger whatever card I picked, if I took this action on my turn, the trade action, I may move something up or down 2 steps before this takes place. So that's the one. You want to play this when you know you're going to go to the market that round, and when you're the leader, of course. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. So there you go. Cataclysms. Let's talk about that a little bit, which would be the last step of each of these dice. So one's going to happen when we get to theirs. Let's say this is done, this is done, this is done. All those players took their actions, etc. We got down here, and this green 4 indeed triggers a cataclysm there. So I have a building, a non-protected building. And so I have to lose the automation on it in this case, or I have to wound the scientist. The scientist I may later on heal with one of these resources, one of these mushrooms. I could heal him, stand him back up, utilize him again. The automation, if gone, as long as I occupy the building as a free action, I can pay to activate that again, to automate the building once again. So I'll pay for that. But if it's ever completely emptied, somebody else could come in there and take it. And if a cataclysm hits while it's completely empty, the building will just get destroyed. So you put it back in the supply over here. So you do have to keep an eye on protecting these things, and controlling them, on saving them, on being careful of what's coming. There are 2 other kinds of buildings you'll see here. These buildings, I all manipulate the stock market in some way. Draw more cards, activate more things, sell different kinds of things. So I'm not going to worry about those. These 3 kinds of buildings are all protection buildings. So if I go down there later on and I buy one of these and I put it over here, which is fine. I can put it somewhere where there's a symbol. You just are covering up that resource. You can't put a factory there. So if I do that, and let's say I had a scientist who could jump from here to here, by the way, I'll pay my 5 mega credits. I'll activate that. Well, now this building happens to protect tiles from these tornadoes, from these twisters. All I have to do is pay one of these resources as listed on it, and I protect this tile, just from myself, mind you, from the twister here. And there's one of those buildings for each kind of cataclysm. There's the earthquake, the geyser, and the twister or tornado. So there you go. You're trying to maintain all your things, expand, work the market, buy low, sell high, of course, and ultimately also hold back a little bit to trigger those protective buildings, and at the end of the game, control your buildings and have a bunch of these mega credits so that you can get the most victory points. So that's basically that. There's all the tiles are going to have, and the artwork is going to show you sort of that die, which is really neat. It's sort of decayed if it's the geyser, and it'll be cracked, kind of like that one, if it's one of the earthquakes. So there you go. Very cool artwork in this. Very interesting. All right, everybody. That is hopefully sensical. There's actually a lot going on in this, all the little, ins and outs of everything I'm talking about. But that's enough. That's enough for right now. Let's go back up top. Let me tell you what I think. All right, that is Living Planet. Let's talk about this. This is definitely a quirky game, okay? It's kind of a weird game, and I guess I'll just jump right in talking about things. So let's slide them in here, and I'll start with the theme, because I think the theme does not benefit from how strange and sort of at odds with this, with itself, this game can feel. The theme here, You've seen those movies that halfway through sort of take a left turn and you go, wait, this is now a different movie. This game feels like that. There is the planet exploration one. That's one game. The stock market stuff doesn't really feel like it's in the same game in some ways. It's sort of two cool ideas brought together, and mechanically they work to a degree, I think. I think thematically they don't really. The aesthetics here are very good. The game looks great. I like the illustration. I like there's a little bit of humor on the tiles, which is nice for a game that's got this much going on. It's not a game that feels humorous, but there is some humor there if you look for it. So that's nice. The replayability here, I think, is okay out of the box. Now, from what I understand, there's a bunch of Kickstarter, I think, content for this, which I don't have. I don't know anything about it. And so maybe with that stuff, and the replayability is tremendous as it is right now. This game, I think the replayability is all right. I think you're going to enjoy coming back to it. But the ultimate strategy, ultimately what you are doing, what you are getting victory points from, it's largely the same. You want buildings, you're going to work and manipulate the stock market. That's it. And mess with your opponents, which is kind of a bonus, right? Oh, you've got buildings over there on that tile that triggers on a yellow 5. Here comes my yellow 5 to mess with you. That's the game, right? So the replayability, again, I think it's okay. The game length here is not great. It's one of my big problems. Now, the game's 12 rounds. Normal game. They do say you can play with 8 while you're learning. I still think 8 is kind of long for how much is happening in the game. But here's the thing. I do recommend 12, because I think a lot of the buildings you are constructing in this game, protective buildings, the ones that let you mess with the stock market, you want to have the entire game length to use them. You want to be able to draw out all that benefit. So playing the truncated game length, the 8 rounds, is better just because the game doesn't feel like it's so long. But you really aren't getting the full experience, right? So all that to say, be aware the game's long and there's not that much variability, except just more of the same stuff happening from the very first round to the 12th round. It's just, kind of long, but you need it to be that long. So there it is. The ease of play here is pretty good once you understand that the game is kind of quirky and bizarre and the way that some of the things work. I think it's good, This is the kind of game that I think is going to be a divisive game. For several of the things I'm saying here, I think it's going to be the kind of game that people go, oh, it's so at odds with itself. Oh, it's so esoteric. Oh, it's stock market and sci-fi. It's going to be the kind of game that a lot of people don't like, but I think this is the kind of game that has the potential to be someone's absolute favorite game, right? As opposed to those games that everybody thinks are pleasant. This game's not pleasant. This game is interesting, it's divisive, it's engaging, and I could totally see it being someone's absolute favorite game. Some people are going to think it's way too mean, too long, too all of those things. So, but the ease of play, like I said, I think is fine for how outside of the box it is. And then lastly, tactics, strategy, luck, all those things. There's always something to think about in this game, which is why I like it. There's always somewhere you need to consider you are potentially at risk. There's always something to work towards. There's always the feeling of something looming, whether it's a stock market crash, and you're still holding some of that, or it's a cataclysm, or it's, whatever it may be. That's interesting. I like that about it. And so ultimately, I do like this game. I think it is a game that's better with more players, though I played it with 2, and I enjoyed it with 2. The variant being that the dice that don't belong to anyone, as they move down that player track, simply do the production and the cataclysm. That's it. It's very easy. Scales well, right? but it is better with more, because then all the meanness is driven by the players. If there's a green 4 out there hitting me, green player played it. It wasn't just the random deck that played it. They did that to me. So there you go. Like I said, I think if you like games that are confrontational, you like stock market games, you don't mind that they're long, this is interesting. This is engaging. This is cool. There's a lot of those things I don't even like. And this is still cool. So I think folks who do enjoy those things quite a bit are going to find here something different than the usual game. It's so bizarre that it feels like it has a reason to exist. For that alone, I give this thumbs up. So this is going to get a 7.5 out of 10 from me. That is a seal of approval for Living Planet. I hope you that this is your thing. I hope you check it out, and I hope you enjoy it very much. There you go, everybody. That's it for me. Thanks for watching this. I will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.